Welcome, my name is Colleen Tauke and I'm a sewing specialist here at Fons and Porter. In this Quilting Quickly tutorial, I'll show you how to make the quilt called Strikeout. If you'd like to purchase our pattern, please visit our website. We are using a really great collection of tonals with a fun print of typeset and plaids, and we're going to be making just 2 different blocks to create a great design like this. So, grays, reds, and blacks with those conversational type prints. We are going to be starting with looking at the 2 blocks that go into the quilt. The 1 block has a narrow diagonal piece set into it and piece, so we'll work at that one. And then we'll talk about the pieces that go into the 2nd block. That's an easier construction. Let's look at this one first. Okay, we are taking a fabric that is 7 inches. We're going to take from our 10-inch squares. There are a lot of diagrams on the cutting, so make sure that you follow those so that you get all the pieces that you need in this quilt. The great thing about the 10-inch squares is you get the variety of the entire line of fabrics, which are already coordinated, so who wouldn't want that? So we're going to be cutting 7-inch squares. Then we're going to cut on the diagonal to cut it in half. It's a little bit different technique than we've done, and we're going to set in a piece across that to make that really dramatic diagonal line that you see that runs in different directions, making X's and kind of O's on the quilt. So we got that first cut. So we're splicing it apart, and your instructions will tell you some are red, some are black on this one, so you might want to use a variety. You're going to be putting this into the center. And the first question you're going to ask, like I did, was where do I position this? And what we do is go in and do the little pinch method, fold in half, find the center, fold this one in half, find its center, and we'll need both edges along there. And that way we know exactly where center is, and I can lay those 2 creases together. I could put a pin in that just so that when I move it to the sewing center I don't shift it. Then I put a crease on this one too, just right along that cut edge. So now I can stitch one side and then the other. By doing that centering technique, you can set these in perfectly, and then you'll just need to trim the outer corners. So our best 1/4 inch seam, remove your pin as you approach, finish it out, and then switch to the other side. I'm going to finger press this first. Got a seam in there like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with my fingers, gently kind of maneuvering the fabric toward that smaller bar, because it's the darker of my 2 fabrics, so that later it'll be a little easier for me to go in and do a press with the iron. Now I'm trying not to stretch. I'm doing little pieces at a time so that I don't distort that. But the bar is cut on the straight of grain, so you shouldn't have any problem there. Again, matching centers. My little fold notches are still there, so I can overlap those and get that positioned properly, and then sew down the other side. Once you learn that technique of finding centers, you can apply it in other situations where you've got 2 pieces and you're thinking, how do I align this? Just go back to what you know where the center is. Okay, by folding you can come up with that center point. Again, I'm going to go in and with my fingernail just lightly press that seam kind of towards the center. Now when I take it to the ironing board, it'll know where it's supposed to be going. Finger pressing has always been my favorite, just to get it kind of lined up, ready for the iron. There we go. Now you can see that we've got corners that aren't quite corners yet. So what we need to do is come in, and we're going to trim these now to a 7-inch square. And 7 is what we had cut before, so when I cut the ruler in there, you can see just little tiny triangles basically are coming off, just not very much, just kind of giving it a haircut. That side, and then this one. To get to 7, And visually, you kind of want to look for the diagonal. You can kind of tell where the center of these, the increments of inches going across they are, so that you can get a nice lined up square. And like I said, it's just a trim to get basically the outer corners, like giving your block a haircut. Those are the first blocks that we need for the quilt. The second style of block was this one. And it is constructed by creating some strip sets. The instructions will tell you to cut so many strips from each of the 10-inch squares. So we have a strip set like this. And your eye will notice that that's where the strip set here comes from, a little piece. So we've got a strip set. You're going to subcut sections off of this that can be used then in the blocks. So we have that piece. We have a square here, a large square beside it, and a rectangle at the base. Construction's simple here by joining these two together, then the large square to the side, and the rectangle along the bottom. You've created block number 2. So follow your instructions for the number of each of those blocks that you need to create the quilt strikeout, and you will have the center portion of your quilt. Now, it also has you cut some pieces that are borders. If you look to the outer edge of the quilt, there are rectangles and there are squares at the corners. So they are just simply linked for each side of the quilt, and a square is put as a cornerstone to make the corner around the outer edge of the quilt. And that is strikeout. If you'd like to see more of our Quilting Quickly tutorials, please visit our website. Thanks for joining me today.